welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening in, wherever you're from. It's always a fantastic opportunity to talk play. Very excited. Look, let me go through a little bit about the Play Lab if you've first time experience being around the information. So, what we do at Corporate Challenge is play-based team building. Um, we look at the Play Lab as our opportunity to share some science and some insights around, you know, I guess the back end thinking of our events, our play-based team building, and trying to educate on the importance of understanding play for the benefits of both organisations and individuals. We spent many years. The company's been going over 30 years, doing what we do best, which is creating engagement and engaging events. But we also believe in education, and we believe through the engagement and the education creates environments for people to thrive. So that was why we put the Play Lab together, to be able to share this information throughout 2026. We do have a Play Lab from January that's already there on the dose effect, and more to come as well. So today is all going to be around productivity myth and permission to play. So we're going to have a discussion around that. Now, if you don't know me personally, so my role is head of client experience at Corporate Challenge. Nuts and bolts of what that means is strategist around engagement strategies for our clients, embedding play into our programs. I do facilitate a lot of programs myself as well. And without going into how I got to this point, really for me, it's about exploring, I'm an explorer play personality, exploring the way I express play every single day. Now, yesterday, as an example, I was out with a school group, 100 kids doing play, and in the afternoon, I had an executive team. So both playing, and both after very similar outcomes, funnily enough, around teamwork and cohesion within the group, but two different expressions of play. So that's what motivates me to share every single day what I do. So I love doing what I do, and today, rather than just myself sharing information, I'm lucky enough to have a special guest in Hugh Sykes as well. I've got Hugh's profile there now. Hugh's one of the leading facilitators in the country. I would say well over 1,000 events that he's facilitated. So to have someone of that caliber join us and to give some insights and thoughts is going to be very beneficial. Hugh, did you want to do a quick introduction or any thoughts on your own profile there, buddy?
Yeah, thanks, Shane. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me as a special guest. Yeah, 1,000 events, give or take. So seen a few different ways that people engage in play over the years. So kicked off my career here in 2010. So rusted on to the organisation, and can't see myself going anywhere anytime soon. As you can see there on the slide, I'm a kinesthete as my play personality. That is basically I learn by doing, and movement is the way that I play. So I often, get up and walk around, or go for a run, or just get the body up and moving to get the creative juices flowing. So that's how I operate in a play state. And yeah, see it all the time out on events when we're up and about, and we should get more of it back into the office as well. So that's me.
Absolutely. And if you can see Hugh on the screen there, you can also see he loves changing his background as well. I think we got the Simpsons up there at the moment, but he's
We do.
renowned for putting different golf courses from around the world on his background to induce some play into our internal huddles as well. So yeah, Hugh, mate, feel free to interrupt and inject any thoughts at any time, mate. Obviously, they'll be very beneficial to hear for someone with your experience. In terms of what we're going to be discussing and we want to look at today, as I mentioned, it's all about permission to play. And permission comes in many different forms. Permission for yourself. I know we say on our events every single time, give yourself permission to play and just be present and not be distracted. But it comes in terms of leadership as well, getting permission from leaders, and also just, I guess, demystifying some of the science around what play is and what that looks like. So I want to go into play deprivation. I want to talk about the barriers and the biological systems of play and what that looks like within the brain and the body. Try and explain play in a metaphor around the state and the trait, just to give the differences between what playing versus a playfulness mindset looks like. And then at the end, discuss some strategies that we use internally with clients, and hopefully others can benefit from around creating a periodic play model within their organization. So if we get off track, that's where our agenda is of what we want to discuss and the information, because it's all very, very beneficial to understand. Now, let's start here today here. Play versus play deprivation. It's an important question, in my opinion, and it's something which is misunderstood. So um, when we say play, a lot of people will think that is a break from work, doing an activity for you, moving your body here. But play deprivation may be a new word, and I define that around, I guess, a lack of regular and meaningful play experiences. So play is unique to us all, but having that lack of a play experience in your life can actually prevent the body and the brain from, developing the essential skills around, social, emotional, cognitive. And there's a real crisis around play and adult play deprivation, not just in Australia, but around the world because of the Western culture and the performance-based culture that we all talk about within organizations. So there's a telling percentage there on the screen. 84% of CEOs believe, innovation is critical to growth, within their organization, but only 6% are actually satisfied with the innovation. So to me, what that means is there is a disconnect around the benefits of play, and too many leaders are still seeing play as a break from doing work rather than an essential tool to actually work better together. And I know that, um, you know, to align with this, we always talk around the dose effect and looking at how we can use neurotransmitters in particular, around dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins to induce these play states to create the innovation and growth that these CEOs are looking for. Um,
Yeah, and I'm going to jump in there, Shane. Just from an on-the-ground perspective, on our play-based team building programs, this is something that we see basically on every single program, especially with groups. If they've been conferencing all morning and there's been a little bit of death by PowerPoint and a lot of content and graphs and KPIs talked about and that kind of stuff. People can be in a state where they're worn down, they're a little bit nervous about what's going to happen next, especially with people who haven't experienced our programs before. And then, all of a sudden we introduce what play means and what play is, and then do a quick icebreaker activity, and all of a sudden the mood completely shifts from you know in the entire room from that oh God, what are we up to? What's going to happen to? All right, there's up and about, there's laughter, and using that, like you said, the dose chemicals in the brain, getting them running just lowers the barrier to access that play state of mind going into the rest of the program.
mm. And you see it when we do it here, like, the energy in the room changes in an instant. And, for me, I call it like a vital act. I often use it as an example of how quickly people can go from the seriousness of being quite close-minded to a play state, and the open mind through those neurochemicals. So it's a good example.
Yeah, 100%.
So I guess the last thing before we move on here is we need to look at how do you create a culture where persistence and the challenging tasks and the challenges that we have, people are actually engaged to want to be involved in. And I think there was a famous study at Stanford around, I think, 48 to 60 odd percent of people that engaged in play actually worked in collab. I might have butchered that a little bit, but worked more collaborative. So, when we talk play, we talk about business performance and in alignment with how we can use that as a tool. So that's why it's important to know that play is that lever, but play deprivation is also important. And I think the way organizations need to look at, I guess, introducing play into the culture and giving permission is, um, the benefits people know. People know that play is fun and makes better connection and keys, and that's why we do what we do. However, not enough action is taken to create that environment ongoing for teams. And I think it's because they don't truly understand the other side, the play deprivation, that when it's not done, the effects are actually business performance in the lack of creativity and productivity and retention of staff and all these factors. So that's why I like play deprivation, because there's a crisis there and it's actually leading to yeah business downfalls in a way because of the lack of productivity and efficiency. If we approach play deprivation and looking at some of the key consequences. And I think this is important again to flip these into the positive. A lack of play in your life can lead to depression, inflexibility, lack of empathy, addictive prescriptions, poor impulse control. But again, if we flip them and we look at what we want out of business, it's really the opposite of all this. We want our teams to have the innovation, to have the creativity, to be engaged. So, like Hugh, is there anything that stands out for you with the teams you work with around some of these key consequences that you see in maybe teams that don't play well enough, but you've been introduced to?
Yeah, look, I'm gonna flip that a little bit and just think about it and do a bit of a personal reflection and would encourage others to reflect personally on their own work days and the way they go about things. I know that, yeah, as a kinesthete, if I haven't been out for my walk or my run or been up and moving, I've been sitting at my desk all day. I'm grumpy. I'm not the person that I need to be to get the things that I need done. So I would encourage people to reflect on their own, circumstances and the way that they go about their work day. If they, find themselves in that state where, they are a a little bit depressed or, they've got a bad mood, they're in a bad mood or whatever it is, think about how the day's gone and, have they been able to engage in that playful activity that flips that mood around? So that's how I would frame that, and that's how I frame it for myself as well. If I haven't been up and moving, I know I'm going to be grumpy by the end of the day. And it's not just reflecting poorly in the work that needs to get done. It's also, when the kids get home from school, my temper's shorter. Snap a little bit easier. Things irritate me more. All that kind of stuff. It all has an impact on not just your work life, but your day-to-day life as well. So it's really important that you can engage in those, play states as much as you can throughout the day to keep yourself on top of things.
So would it be fair to say then that when you don't, you feel like quite stuck? Is that what you're saying? Like, and you use that
Absolutely.
as a
Yeah.
tool?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, taking an example, like when I do go for a walk or for a run or anything, I usually take my phone with me, because that's when the creative juices are flowing. I'm going to come up with an idea. I'm going to email myself, and the idea of I'll stop, take 2 minutes to quickly write a note in the phone, and then continue on with whatever activities I'm doing. Because that's when I work best. That's when I problem solve best.
Hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. And I think as a side note, we like having these conversations, you and I, because we understand our play personalities quite well. We know how to use the tools and those levers. So for anyone who hasn't done the play personalities, I think there's actually a link within our play pack we give at the end of this webinar where you can do your play personality. But Hugh is, yeah, probably the shining star of using that to change his state for the positive, to make sure he doesn't go into that play deprivation side of things. So look, I guess trying to understand again before we move on from a science why it's actually really, really important to know all this stuff in the play. So if we talk science for a moment, the neuroscientist Jaak Panksepp actually was a pioneer in this field, and he found that play is it's a primary emotional system in the brain. So what that means is rather than feeling like play is a luxury, it's actually hardwired into our brain as an essential tool. And he did a lot of studies through young mammals in particular and looked at natural play, rough and tumble, exploration play, and actually, yeah, found that you could stimulate parts of the brain around play, and they weren't random, and they were in alignment with other deep biological systems around, fear and anger, and these core drivers is what it means to be human. So to me, it was interesting because I look at it as in like fear to me is it's a warning system for your body. It tells you when danger's there. Anger can also be a protector of knowing when you're out of alignment. Seeking pushes you to grow, all these core fundamentals, but play becomes a teacher of life. And we know this. This is not new with all the kids that we have and the kids we work with. That's why they teach through play. because they know the role play and the exploration and the negotiation and all these things that take place within play are beneficial to our brain. But there becomes a point right here when we get told we have to stop playing and be serious. And often that's the time when, yeah, we need to be more creative and more innovative around the different challenges we have in our life. So I think understanding and framing that if you're talking about leadership or trying to get some buy-in from leadership around, play and breaking the myth, it's there alongside everything else that makes us human and essential for living a balanced life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, again, looking at science can be a little complicated. So one thing we try and do to everyone we talk play with now is use metaphor to understand this a little bit better, because there are a lot of misconceptions around that about play and what it actually is. I think the biggest one would be that play is just a break from doing actual work, right? Um, so the way I like to explain it is like the weather. Okay, so we look at the play state, which is the act of playing. That might be an activity of some thought. It might, for you, it might be moving your body. It's actually a verb of doing something which is playful in a way or aligns with your play personality. Again, it can be problem solving and puzzles for people. It can be moving the body. It can be, yeah, many different things. But that's actually the act of playing. Okay. Now, that for me is like the weather. It can change. You can create a sunny day. We create sunny days through team experiences. But the climate is more consistent, and that is the way we think about the playfulness attitude that we embrace as a culture, right? And too many organizations that we work with here think that that one act of playing, that one event they do a year, will change the climate that they have, which is their culture. They'll have a
Yeah,
sunny day and then all of a sudden they wonder why it's not sunny every day through winter, right? And
yeah.
the way to create a better climate. Sorry, you were going to
Yeah,
interrupt
and
there?
I was going to say,
Yeah.
it's like working out. It's the same kind of thing. The one workout's not going to drop you 5 kilos. Yeah, it's about consistency and turning up every single day and doing the same thing on a consistent basis that's going to show you the results. Yes, that one workout can be the catalyst. And again, that team building program can be the catalyst that then creates the beginning of the culture or the climate. But it's all about, and again, this goes back to what the webinar's about. It's about, it's about permission to play. So before you can create that, the trait or the climate, you need to have that permission first. And I mean, that could start with we are doing a play-based team building activity. Bang, from there, okay, let's give ourselves permission to play when we're back in the office as well, and doing our day-to-day role. So, you got to start somewhere. It's not just going to magically happen. It's all about consistency to create that climate that's going to continue on and carry you on to your end goals, basically.
Absolutely. So I think we need to like stop thinking about play as something we add and start thinking it as something that you build through repetition, through ongoing exposure to play. Like I love your workout, one. We all know our body's built through consistency of exposure to the right stimulus, and I think that's the way we need to look at it. I think that's the way that you need to frame it up with leadership and decision makers around play. That it doesn't need to be added as more all the time. It just needs to be reframed into we can build this within our culture, within our everyday experiences. And I know we're going to talk about the play spaces as well,
Yeah.
and as a strategy
We
that
don't need to create more time. The time's already there. It's about utilizing what we already have as opposed to trying to add stuff because we'll talk about this soon as well. But we know people are time poor. It's about utilizing what we've already got as opposed to adding stuff on top of what we're already doing.
100%, mate. 100, couldn't agree more. So it's also important to understand the barriers and what it because it is there are genuine barriers to play. Not everyone gets to do what we do here every single day and be out there just basically doing play all day every day, right? Um, so by understanding the barriers helps you overcome them in a way as well. So the first one there is obviously psychological, and I think the easiest way to explain this is we often complain and we all talk to, family and friends around being overworked, but very often we will lead when someone says, "How you going?" We'll be like, "Oh, we're busy," or almost like a badge of honor. So I think psychologically, it ingrains us to know that the busier we are, the more successful we are. And I think, that then again, looking at the old belief system around play as a break from doing the actual work, it kind of frames I guess, a fixed mindset. Would you agree, Hugh, on that?
Yeah, I think the way to look at it, I think it's been covered in a previous is play is not the opposite of work. Play and work should go hand in hand. So, breaking that psychological barrier between the two. There shouldn't be a barrier between the two. I think it's work is not the opposite of play. Depression is the opposite of play. So, reframing that is a really good starting point to get beyond that psychological barrier.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. Second being cultural there. So, cultural, again, significant impact because based on, your upbringing, where you're from, different parts of the world will play differently. I believe that, Asian cultures and Eastern cultures are more ingrained around ritual play and creating connection and playful experiences that way, where the Western society is a bit more individualized. So, within your own teams, there's always going to be a difference in backgrounds and upbringings and cultural. So, trying to navigate the conversations around what play is to each individual will help overcome that barrier because, for some people, it's singing and dancing is something very cultural. But if you try and create that for other people, it's a massive barrier. So, we need to, yeah, I guess, start those conversations in a way around the cultural stuff so we can know what is play in different cultures and what does it look like. Um, Environmental, clearly there's different times within an organization is our environmental. They don't have access to outdoor spaces if they need that. There could be some safety issues around certain aspects of a business that it's not the right time. So um, getting to a point where we can look at the environment we're around, and this is why we want to talk about play spaces because that's quite a common area to do is a barrier. And I'm sure if you spoke to a lot of the organizations you work with, they're very serious organizations, a lot of safety, a lot of manufacturing organizations, and they would argue that you can't be um, doing play in that environment. Is that a fair call as well in terms of
Yeah,
what
that's a
you
fair
hear?
call. And, lots of, being based in Sydney, lots of law firms and financial institutions that, they're dealing with serious issues. Lots of, protective of, people's data and all that kind of stuff. So, the definitely a barrier is, we do serious work, so we need to be serious all the time. So yeah, that's absolutely.
Mhm.
I suppose with you, with a lot of mining companies, you probably find the same thing.
Absolutely. And that's why, again, reinforcing it's important to say that it's not about, throwing fish around or, lobbing tennis balls through the office. It's the mindset around a play and understanding that. And clearly also, CBD challenges around less green spaces for outdoor events, things like that have an environmental impact as well.
Yeah.
From like a systems point of view, I think that's very similar to environmental in a way that a lot of people are conditioned of different frameworks and systems they go through, and it kind of feeds into the lack of time one, which is the biggest one. And I know we ask when you sign up to the different webinars that we run, kind of what are the biggest barriers and biggest questions you have, and the number one thing that we get is we don't have time to play. And I'm keen on how do you reframe that here? Would it be very similar to what we've already discussed around, you know,
Yeah, I
play?
think the time, like I said, this is not about adding more time to people's days. I mean, going back to, the play spaces are, I think, are really important. Something to integrate into workplaces. I mean, not talking about ping pong tables and foosball tables and pool tables and that kind of stuff. It's spaces that you already have that create a safe environment for people to go and sort of recreate that water cooler chat that might be missing now. Where they could find spaces where, people free to express themselves in their play personality with like-minded people. And, It'll create better connections, and creating those spaces that you already have within the office or wherever it is, and using the times that people use them at the same time. Whether that's a common kitchen area or meeting spaces or whatever it is, creating those or turning those into those play spaces. So you don't need to create more time in the day to engage in play. It happens naturally in those areas.
Agreed. And from a personal level, I also think of it as a parent. I'm sure there's other parents on the call. We're so time poor trying to, kids' lunches and activities and all these type of things. Quite often, previously I would look at, I didn't have time to play with my kids. Kids would play, but again, now looking at is how to integrate the play within the activities that we do together. And I think that's changed my perception on doing that to go, how do we add play with what's already happening around us rather than finding time for it separately to all the other responsibilities that we have. I don't know, you and I
Yeah,
have
I
that
think
personally as well.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, just in personal experience, I've just started getting the kids to help me cook on a weekend. They love it. And creates that. It's still time that I have to be in the kitchen to create those meals, but adding them into there as well to create it's play for them. It's not something that they usually do. So yeah, it's about using that time that you already have and just tweaking it a little bit to encourage the playful state of mind.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think moving forward towards the place-based conversation, a lot of the time, employees struggle with burnout. And I think we can link that, to many reasons, one of them being that play deprivation. But I guess what we're looking at here is employees and staff are often asked by leaders to come up with innovative solutions to, drive, problem solving, things that enhance team collaboration, but they're burnt out. Do you think, Hugh, that a lot of the time, because that's quite superficial and them almost asking for an outcome without understanding the root cause of the play deprivation and what's causing that is the reason why that number of 47% is so high?
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, because I think it goes back to the initial slide, 87 or 84% unhappy or whatever that was.
Yeah.
You look at that and that, you know, we stop playing, quote unquote, for serious reasons, and then expect people to be able to perform in these situations without getting themselves into a state where they can solve the problems.
Hmm. Sure. And I look at it, fan of the Olympics, the Winter Olympics has been on the last couple of weeks, and I look at it as the athlete, like the business person, wants a certain outcome. For the athlete, it's to win the gold medal, to, run a time, whatever it might be. Now, they don't just rock up on that particular day of the Olympics and hope for the best. They condition themselves through the repetition of, in this state training, in their state training, but through us, through play and through, you know, using that as a tool to develop the playfulness attitude. So when we get to a point when we're asked to, be more innovative, we've actually got some repetitions there that we're using that. I love seeing it on our programs in particular around the problem solving, around just the low stakes negotiations and sharing that happens within problem solving activities that in a business format people are afraid to share because of judgment or whatever it might be. But when you put them into a play state, naturally ideas and concepts start to flow and they start giving natural feedback. And it's amazing to see how they can actually create solutions. And it's a
Yeah,
small snapshot, right, on what can
yeah,
be.
definitely. And going back to the gym analogy as well, like neuroplasticity is something that, we should all be striving for. And the more you exercise the muscles in the brain, the more you develop them. So the better you're going to be in these situations when they arise. And it has the opposite effect as well. If you don't use those muscles, they can atrophy. And so you forget how to do that. Your brain forgets how to, what did I do last time when this was a thing? Because that muscle hasn't been worked. It's not there to call upon when you need it.
Agreed. Absolutely. So yeah, so that's what we mean when we talk about, play producing emergent outcomes. So giving yourself the permission to play, knowing that it's actually beneficial because when you need to perform, it's those repetitions there that actually helps. Okay, so we don't need to look at it as a distraction. We need to look at play as the performance tool that's missing in a lot of organizations. So I guess we've spoken here around not adding play, not needing to add play. Obviously, you can if you've got time, but not needing to. It's all around us in a way. So for me, it's present in the teams that we work with. It's present in most organizations. So what I wanted to do was actually just give some ideas, well, not some ideas, but I guess some moments when it shows up, and it's naturally within every environment. So you can see there's no doubt within any office, there's these micro moments of laughter where people share stories. It could be, the funny things, like you said, with your background here, the micro moments of fun. That is play as a representation inside a physical office. It could just be, sharing a story. If you're a storyteller around what you've done on the weekend on your outdoor adventures, it could be, a moment of pride where someone's achieved something as a competitor. All these are micro moments of laughter and play. The collaborative problem solving, looking at the insights, and it happens on a daily basis around, how do we actually do that? There's often team meetings, agile sprints, all these problem solving aspects that can be representations of a play state, depending on the personality within there. And then the flow moments and the informal team interactions as well. So I need you, I guess I wanted to talk about this because I think one of the first steps in embracing a play-based culture is recognizing play around us, and how it's happening and almost labeling it and go, oh, that's a representation of play. And you see it in the world around you. Like I know as I started to look into science more, years have passed where rather than just going to the playground with the kids, you start seeing the play and how they're interacting, or you see it on a sports ground where adults are playing. And it's it's amazing to witness it there when you bring it into your consciousness in a way. And there's a lot of activators that you can use around this as well. So, joyful engagement, work agency, purposeful exploration, they're all there around the social connection. So these are tools that can be used that already happen on a daily to day basis that you can enhance via play activators.
Yeah, and I think just back on the recognizing those moments as well, and tying that in with the lack of time that people believe they have, it's recognizing those moments and how do you embrace those and bring in moments throughout the day or the week to be intentional to try and bring those to the forefront so people deliberately engage in these activities that are already happening around the place. So again, like you said, recognition and then intention really, really important to get those beneficial outcomes for everyone.
Yeah, 100%. My favorite is the work agency there. As an explorer, I love looking at possibilities. So being able to take, a complex problem or a conversation and go, right, what if we tried it this way? How can I improvise, to get this outcome? For me, that's a representation of play just within an everyday work concept, as an explorer.
Yeah,
So
and I'd see all the time going back to the social connection. That is my number one conversation I'm having with clients at the moment is we are lacking connection as a team because everyone works hybrid. No one's in the office at the same time anymore. So how do we almost fast track that connection when everybody is in the same space at the same time? And I think, moves into this slide here that we've got play spaces, creating those intentional spaces where I think I mentioned it before, where you can recreate or create the water cooler chat that's not happening anymore. So yeah, that's the big. I think I'm finding with my clients that that's their biggest challenge at the moment. So yeah.
yeah, and look, for those that are new to this periodic play model that we use, I have gone through the six different levels on different calls and webinars in the past. But really for us, there's no priority here. There's six different ways that we can introduce play within an organization. And Hugh and I will talk about the play personality integration, the kinesthetic and the explorer, because we get that. So, as I said, a first step could be to understand that. And then we look at meetings, micro play, success and play challenges. So if you want more information on those, certainly happy to explore. But where we want to spend some time the next kind of 5 minutes here is looking at play space, because I think that is the opportunity here that's already there within teams and organizations, communal areas, and how they can make them into a play space to bring out representation, like you said, water cooler chat or online in hybrid teams. And what I put together was a way that we look at this internally to do this for clients, both on events and in spaces. So in the end, connection is a combination of four moments in a way. Bringing these moments together has a massive benefit on that social connection that you spoke about here around what your clients are after. So, to give some insight and some ideas, if you have a communal area or a space where it could be a kitchen, it could be a relaxation room, trying to find strategies, and it will be unique to every single client because it's all different, where you can have people have moments of pride where they can share success stories, achievements, things they're proud of, contributions. So that could be from some sort of leaderboard on something. It could be, like I said, someone's done something extraordinary in the local community. So it's a moment of pride for people to be able to be celebrated in that way, which helps get them into that play space. We look at insight, which is education in a way. How can you learn? For us, these webinars and what we discuss is moments of insight where we're trying to provide the background knowledge of what we do every single day. And I think that can be used internally in organizations as well to, update people around, policies, procedures. It could be insights in new research that's alignment with, the business outcomes. I think it's almost like providing those aha moments of insight that way. And then at the bottom, we've got elevation and connection. Elevation is rising something above the ordinary. So, like a surprise, it could be a raffle winner. It could be a moment. We use charity-based programs here, right, where we have charities attend
Yeah.
programs of like, wow, that was an unexpected moment within that play state, and it becomes more memorable that way. And then the final one is just those moments of connection, setting up spaces that, people can sit down and have a chat at a certain table or a lounge, or setting up the water cooler or the coffee machine in a way that just has people sharing stories around their backgrounds and, what they find valuable in their own life. And I think if you're intentional around creating those spaces that way, you can actually formulate a play environment without actually taking any more time. Yes, it might take a little bit of time for an organizer to set up the space, but in general, the employees or the people in the team will naturally pass through these spaces and get into a play state. I've
Yeah.
seen one of the best examples I've seen here is like a dance square. I've had a client put a square of tape in the communal area, and it was like every time you step foot in it, someone needs to do an improv dance. And people would purposely avoid it, which creates the play area, and people would purposely step into it. Um,
Yep.
so, an easy way to look at a play space. I don't know if you have
Yeah,
any
and I
thoughts.
mean, creating these moments and things like that, you see it on every single event, and it's just being able to replicate it. When we give away the winning team medals, there's always that, it creates, the insight and the elevation and the pride. They're better connected with the team who just won the medals, but also creates, that extra, the playful banter on the side is like, oh yeah, they only won because, the CEO's in the team, or, the person who organized the activity, who put the teams together is in it. And so it instantly creates that extra connection that they, might be lacking a little bit, and it's finding a way to in the spaces that you've got in the office, or online, or however it is that you are getting together to replicate those little moments. Because it's not a big moment at the end of the day. It's a little thing. It takes 2 minutes, and but it has a huge impact on the rest of the day that they have and the rest of the night. Always say, they all wear their winning team medals to the team dinner that night just to, create that extra little bit of banter around the table and all that kind of stuff as well. So trying to replicate those little moments into the day to day, into those spaces.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt there's a lot of thought on our end that goes into what looks like random moments, but it's very intentional to create these moments of connection and build team culture.
Absolutely.
Cool. So, look, in terms of moving forward into the next Play Lab, now we're very lucky. We've got Mia Sundstrom, who's the CEO for the National Institute for Play, who's going to be joining us in March. And now, Hugh and I, we were on a call with Mia just this week, and it's inspiring to see someone that has lived and breathed play. If you're familiar with Dr. Stuart Brown's work around play, Mia is actually still Dr. Brown's granddaughter, who now runs the organisation and the non-for-profit that he founded. So to have her on is going to be a special thing to talk around her passion of play, the history, and what it actually meant for her to grow up in those environments and to see where she is now. So that's the March webinar, which will be, I've got the slide here. I do. I've got a QR code there if you want to scan and sign up there. We will send this out afterwards as well, but that'll be the 25th of March with all the local time zones there on the side. Again, 45 to 60 minutes, interview style, where I'll be interviewing Mia, and she's going to be sharing her thoughts on what it means to, live and breathe play and talk a little bit about the public health necessity around that play deprivation as well. So I would highly encourage anyone that's watching this to share that QR code and link with their teams, because if you're anything like us internally, Hugh, you walk away from 45 minutes with Mia very motivated and passionate around play and the importance of it in your own life.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, she's an incredible speaker. She'll have you enraptured the entire time, even through a screen. She's brilliant. So can't wait for that.
Exactly right. So to finish off, I always like to give away a periodic play gift pack. So for anyone new that's looking at some ideas around the micro play and how to actually come up with the ideas that we do, there is another QR code. In particular, I think it's important to share with your teams and do their play personality quiz, which can only take 5 minutes. And really start conversations around the play integration and what play means to be individual. But we've also got some ideas there around connection decks and icebreakers and some self-facilitated activities as well. So again, we will share that post-event, the link to that. But if you do have your phone or something available to scan the QR code, you can do that now. So look, from my perspective, that's what I wanted to cover today. Share that information. I will put why I'm just finishing off that QR code to Mia's registration back on the screen. I want to thank you all for being here with us. Hopefully, you got a little bit of insight and knowledge around what breaking that productivity myth around play actually means, and some information around sharing with the leaders the permission to play. From my perspective, I think it starts with giving yourself permission to play. You mentioned it around your own workflow, and when it shows up, you're stuck. I think that's how you can be a leader. That if your organization is not currently at a point where the leaders are giving permission to everyone to do this, you can reverse engineer it and find ways to be more innovative, more efficient as a human. And then when everyone starts asking what you're doing, play can be part of that conversation, which will filter through into the cultures. Um,
Yeah, and I think on that, Simon Sinek says it with culture. It's the person next to you and the person on your left and the person on your right. If they've got your back, you've got a good culture. It's the same sort of thing. If you can look at the person on your left and on your right and they recognize, and you can recognize when they need something, then you can build it from the ground up. So if you give yourself permission to play and permission to play within the team as well, when you guys are the ones on the ground, as opposed to maybe upper management who maybe a little bit disconnected from the ground level work, you can absolutely, build it from the ground up rather than top down as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, yeah, look, thank you very much for joining us. What I might do for a couple of minutes, if there are any questions in the group, feel free. You can put those in the chat now. I'm happy to hang on for another few minutes. I understand if you have to take off, but if there are any other questions, you can put your hand up or take yourself off mute. Happy to have a dialogue. But if not, feel free to join us on our next one in March with Mia. Was there any questions before we?
So there's one that's come through the chat from K-Dog about deprivation,
Okay.
and wondering if the team who's running hard towards a deadline find moving into a state of play following this period to be even more beneficial and impactful. And using the example of like lack of food intake for a period of time, it tastes better when you get it if you haven't eaten for a long time. I think going back to the dose effect, it's sort of like having that cold shower of a morning, or the cold plunge. And then re-regulating your dopamine by warming up naturally. Same sort of thing with the impact of play. So if you have been, play deprived while you are running towards that really hard deadline that you need to get to, then the benefits of play post that deadline will absolutely, you know, push your re-regulate you really, really quickly to get you back into the play frame of mind when you're getting back into your regular day to day once that deadline's passed.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that for sure. So thanks for the question, K-Dog. It's good to see your face, Kieran.
Yes,
Look, everyone.
it's been a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, so yeah, thank you so much. Feel free to join us, pass around the links to your team that you'll find beneficial, and we'll see you at the next Play Lab. Thank you so much. Thanks you. Thanks for joining us, mate. Much appreciated.